Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me for another Batman review. Today it is Season 1, Episode 24, Give 'em the Axe, which is Part 2 of The Ring of Wax. So this episode, once again, guest stars Frank Gorshin as the Riddler. And I have to say, this is a very interesting episode. I don't think it's a perfect episode. There's a few plot elements I didn't really care for, but overall, what makes it a very good episode is Frank Gorshin's performance as the Riddler once again. And also, Batman shows a little bit more annoyance and a little bit more anger here than he has up to this point in the show, which is kind of an interesting direction for the character to go in. So we start, as we always do, with the cliffhanger from the last episode where Batman and Robin are tied up over the acid, and of course Batman uses his utility belt, because why not, to cause an explosion which knocks him and Robin out, which makes the Riddler think that he's actually killed them, which is kind of retreading old territory, as they've done this with the Riddler before where he thought he's killed Batman and Robin, but it's a little different here, so it was fine. So the Riddler, thinking he's killed them, decides he's going to call Commissioner Gordon and basically gloat about it. And even Moth questions him on this. She says, why take the time to do this? But the Riddler says that's the whole reason he got into crime, basically. That's part of his thing. And you can tell his cockiness will once again help lead to his downfall, but he just can't help himself. So after this, Batman and Robin wake up. It turns out they were just knocked out. They're alive and well, of course, which we knew all along. And Batman calls the commissioner and tells him he's okay, and he gets the clues from the next riddles, basically. And this all leads us to a scene where the Riddler and his whole gang, including Moth, are basically at the museum where they're going to steal the Incan treasure that they discovered from the book in part 1 of the episode. So, nice reference to part 1 there. And there is a really great scene where Frank Gorshin as the Riddler describes all the medieval torture devices in the room, which will actually be used later on in the episode, but he gets a lot of actual joy from this, and we can tell how disturbed he really is here. And you can see Moth seems a little concerned too as she's there listening to him, and she's now a little worried about how stable this guy is, I think, but it's really too late for her to turn back now. And she does kind of have a little bit of a thing for Batman in this episode, but it's not over the top like some of the female characters. I thought it was done pretty well. She's kind of in between, and I thought that was fine. It was an interesting enough character. So eventually Batman and Robin arrive after figuring out the clues from the riddles. And I have to say, they weren't the greatest riddles this time around, but that's not really that important. What is important is that Batman and Robin can't get in because the door is locked, but there's an open window, and they decide Robin is going to be the only one that can fit through it. So Robin basically goes in by himself, and a plot point that makes no sense when you see what happens a few minutes later, and also just wasn't that great of a scene. It was the one thing in the episode I really didn't care for. So, of course, Robin gets in, and he's captured by the Riddler's men because he went in by himself. So Batman gets tired of waiting for him, and he basically uses the Batmobile and smashes through the doors to get in. Why didn't he just do that to begin with when Robin was there? I have no idea. I guess you just kind of go with it, but I really thought that one was strange, even for this show. So this leads to a really good fight as the Riddler's surprised that Batman is still alive, of course, once again. But I do say they make good use of all the torture devices that are in the room that were described earlier. They're incorporated very well. This is one of the more detailed fights, and I thought it was one of the better ones for sure. Even what happens to Moth is kind of interesting in this scene. So eventually, of course, Batman wins. And I have to say, when he gets hold of the Riddler, he's actually pretty annoyed and pretty angry. The Riddler really got under his skin in this episode. And it was interesting to see Adam West portray this character a little bit darker. It doesn't really go very dark like a modern-day Batman would. But it's still not quite of as light a mood as Batman's usually in. And I thought it was very interesting. So basically, the Riddler and all his gang are caught by Batman and Robin, and then the police come and take care of the rest. So all is well, the treasure's been saved, and we get a happy ending as usual. But this was an interesting episode that goes to some interesting places. There were just a few inconsistencies in the plot and a few scenes I didn't care for. But I would say Give 'em the Axe is another classic, and I give it a 4 out of 5. Definitely a must-see for all fans of the show, so a 4 out of 5 for Give 'em the Axe. And as always, thank you very much for watching.